welcome back to the Unsolicited Film Reviews podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and most importantly, comment, because we had a comment from a Mr. or Mrs. Mastronate12 asking us if he could be on our podcast or if she could be on our podcast.
Yeah.
Uh,
We
Probably
don't know
not.
we don't know who you are. I mean, thanks for the comment, and we definitely appreciate the views. So if you can keep watching, and who knows, maybe someday.
But in industry news, the stunt category has finally been added to the Oscars for next year, and this has been a long time coming, Martin.
It is actually, though. I noticed it isn't actually for next year. That's what I thought too,
Oh, it's not?
until I read more. No, and this is the confusing thing. Like, why not just make it now? But they're going to actually do it for the 100th Academy Awards, which isn't
Huh.
until 2028. So it'll basically the one that'll award 2027 films. So I don't know why they're forcing the stunt guys to wait a couple of years to get recognized, but that's yeah. I had originally thought, okay, this is great. Yeah, after talking about it for a while, they're finally going to do it, and they are finally going to do it, but it's still going to take a couple of years.
Yeah, especially after we had a lengthy discussion about Fall Guy that came out last
Yes.
year with Ryan Gosling, and that kind of generated this whole discussion. So it's yeah, why wait another year? I don't know, but
No, but it's good they're getting recognized or
yeah,
will
for
get
sure.
recognized eventually. Yeah, and then in other industry news, Minecraft, the Minecraft movie this past weekend just was a juggernaut at the box office. So it made 162 million in the opening weekend and has now grossed over 200 million domestic and 350 million worldwide in its first week. Like I did not see that coming. It's already the highest grossing movie of this year, and its total right now after a week would have made it the ninth highest grossing movie of last year. Like that, it's just insane. I've never really played Minecraft. I guess maybe that's my mistake, but I did not see this juggernaut coming. How about you?
No, I've never played Minecraft a minute in my life, and I'm just as shocked as you are. And I'm a gamer. Like I play a lot of video games during my free time, and it's but I do know that the generation below us basically is addicted to this game. And
Yeah, and it's good for younger kids, I guess. Like I have friends with kids who play it because it's, it can be kind of anything. You can set restrictions or whatever and make it just you're in the world and you're not connected to other people or whatever it is. This is my understanding. Maybe I shouldn't try to explain Minecraft because I know nothing about it, but I do know that kids play it. Let's put it that way.
yeah, and I've seen incredible things done in this game where they can make the entire world of like Middle Earth or the entire world of Westeros or even like Hogwarts and just like brick by brick they make this literally the entire world, and it blows my fucking mind,
It
honestly.
really is
But
a world unto its own. From what I
yeah,
understand, people are making libraries in the Minecraft world and then like actually, putting books in them and stuff. So they're at actually an online resource or something. It's all pretty crazy. I don't quite know how any of that would work. I guess you'd have to click through other things or something. But
yeah,
again, I got to
I'm
stop talking about technology of the game because I'm just exposing my ignorance the more I speak. Let's get
but I
back
guess
to the movie.
yeah, but I guess we should actually get into what we're actually going to be talking about tonight.
Let's do it. Yeah.
And
All right, so I guess I'll kick us off then. So we decided for this week we're going to talk about some of the greatest villains in movie history. We just thought that that would be a fun topic of discussion. There wasn't any obvious topic of discussion for this week, nothing that lined up necessarily for the calendar. Next week, you stay tuned for an Easter themed one we're going to do. But for this week, we thought villains would be a great category. Everybody loves a good villain. And so we're going to go through, as we often do on this podcast, through our top 10 movie villains.
And we should state that these are live action villains and also that they are movie villains and not TV villains. So
Yes,
like we could go into a whole other podcast about animated slash Disney villains, or we could get it into a whole podcast about TV villains. And it's such a broad category. So yes, we are just talking
and we
about
we
live.
might do that at some point.
Oh, definitely. For sure we will. So going into our top 10 movie live action villains.
Exactly. So we
And
should say right off the top that the way we come up with these lists that we do, our top 10 lists, is incredibly scientific. Takes, years of research by top academics. Uh, it's verified by PricewaterhouseCooper.
of
It's
course,
actually, basically, what we do is we each come up with a list of 10 and then share it. And then we come up with a combined list. And for the last couple of ones that we've done, like when we had our top twist movies, there was a lot of overlap between our two lists. This time, that was not the case at all. So we had only one villain overlap. And I think that just speaks to the amount of great movie villains out there. What do you think?
yeah, absolutely. We are almost to a fault so simpatico with our views on certain movies and just it's almost kind of disappointing how much we agree on stuff for different things. But yeah, this one was mind-blowing as far as how we just only had one out of our 10 in common. So I guess we should just
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, talk about our list. So again, lists are a hell of a lot of fun. We love doing them on this podcast. They're also kind of ridiculous. Like, how
yeah.
is one villain necessarily inherently a better villain than another villain? I don't know. So these are kind of just random lists, but we put a little bit of thought into them. So my list, I had from 1 to 10. I had Hannibal Lecter, Darth Vader, Hans Landa, Hell 9000, Thanos, Gordon Gekko, Michael Corleone, Hans Gruber, Amon Gut from Schindler's List, and Michael Myers. Your list is totally different, aside from Hans Landa. You had Heath Ledger's Joker, Commodus, Dolores Umbridge, Loki, T-1000, Calvin Candy, Anton Sugar, Ivan Drago, and Daniel Plainview. Like, just totally different lists, but I loved all the ones on your list.
Yeah, all 19 of those were completely valid entries and all for different reasons. So yeah, it was we could do different podcasts on all those, but you guys don't want to sit there and watch us or listen to us for 2.5 hours. So, we had to cut it down a little bit.
Yeah, and of course, both of us probably considered lots of others as well while making our lists.
For sure, for sure.
But yeah, so let's get to it then. And so as always, we're going to count down from 10 to 1. So starting off with number 10, take it away, Zach.
All right, so we have the T-1000 as played by Robert Patrick
By Robert
at
Patrick. Yeah.
yeah, by Robert Patrick on in 1991's Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And God, is there a maybe Godfather Part 2, but is there a better sequel ever than Terminator 2? Like God damn, it's such a just the perfect action movie. And yeah, Robert Patrick was just so intense and emotionless, but at the same time being just like uh, yeah, so just going for his goal.
Yeah, yeah, he was. Yeah, the things that, like, it's funny because Robert Patrick he wasn't really that well known before this movie. I'd certainly had never heard of him. Um, but he just plays this like relentless, unstoppable killing machine. It's kind of in the vein, that's obviously a villain kind of archetype or trope, maybe. But Michael Myers, who was on my list, could kind of fit into the same sort of category. Just these people that just will not stop and just keep coming and just keep coming. But this was took that up to another level, and plus technology was involved, and yeah, it was pretty amazing. And of course, it wouldn't have worked without the at the time incredibly advanced CGI that James Cameron used for the movie.
Yeah, yeah. This, especially the scene where he was like walking through these the bars of the prison,
Yeah.
and that was just so advanced for its time. And James Cameron has always been ahead of the curve as far as visual effects.
Mhm.
But yeah, just seeing Robert Patrick turn into the liquid metal and going through those bars and the gun, like the gun getting stuck
Yeah,
behind
yeah.
him as he's doing that. Yeah, man, that yeah, yeah. It
And yeah,
is
I
wild.
mean, that blew people's minds at the time, right?
Yeah.
Like that, one of these days we should take a look at, special effects that totally blew people's minds. There's that, there's just off the top of my head, I'm thinking of the things in the Matrix and stuff, right?
Mm.
But that was certainly one. When we saw an actor sort of morph into something else, and it just looked amazing. So yeah, what a great villain. Because not only, I think the scary part is, yeah, it was not only was it this unstoppable killing machine, but it could also become anyone and
Yeah.
imitate people that you might know, right?
Yeah, when he became John Connor's stepmom
Hmm.
and she's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
what's wrong with Wolfie?" And then she just threw her arm out and
Boom.
stabbed her stepdad in in the head. Yeah, I mean, there's so many great moments, and
Yeah,
for
and it's
such,
shot in such a way that at first you think she just closes a door, and
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
afterwards they show it. Yeah, the whole arm's going through his head with the milk. That's great.
And to be such an emotionless character, but at the same time have so much impact on the story was just really, really cool especially for the time.
Yeah. And again, I mean, you pointed out at the beginning it was a sequel to another movie with an unstoppable machine. And so you're like, well, how can you one up this? And then, oh my goodness. And he even says that, Schwarzenegger's T, what is his, like 101 or whatever,
Yeah, I think so.
early on says,
I think it's 101, yeah.
he's much more advanced than I am. And you're like, oh shit. And we thought that thing was an unstoppable killing
Yeah.
machine. All right. So number nine on the list, and that is Gordon Gekko. So this is characters created by Stanley Weiser and Oliver Stone for the 1997 film Wall Street that Stone directed, and then the character appeared again in the limp imitation sequel Wall Street Money Never Sleeps in 2010. But we don't need to talk about that. Let's just contain ourselves to the 1987 movie. Um, it was played by Michael Douglas. I think more than anything else on the list, this is probably the most misunderstood villain. And by that, I mean that a lot of people misunderstood that he was a villain. in the movie. I think you had a lot of Wall Street bros and idiots who were actually trying to be like, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah, I want to be Gordon Gekko." But no, the whole point was that he was the villain. Uh, and he's interesting. This will be the case a few times on this list, I think. But he's a character that gets talked up before you even see him on screen.
Oh
And I
yeah,
love
yeah,
that
yeah.
where like, you're building expectations, and that happens in this movie where it's like, oh, he's trying to get this meeting with this Gordon Gekko guy. Oh, he's a total killer. He sold NASA stock within 30 minutes of the Challenger disaster or something, which is kind of a crazy comment because I don't think NASA has stock, but I don't think it's a publicly traded company. But anyway, that's a comment that somebody says, right? It's just like this urban legend guy of how much of a killer he is. But he really, I mean, he's just so selfish. And the main character, for most of it, thinks that he's kind of helping him out, but he's totally using him. And everything that anybody around him does, it's just for himself. And so, he's got his famous line in the movie, greed is good. Greed, for lack of a better term, is good. And again, people were like, "Oh yeah, yeah," misunderstanding that. No, 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 that's horrible. The point is that he is a villain. What are your thoughts on Gordon Gekko?
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And he is really akin to what's Leo DiCaprio's character in Wolf of Wall Street?
Jordan Belfort.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, and it's the exact same thing. Like people who misunderstand those films admire those characters,
yeah.
and those are not good guys.
No, and I think it's even just as relevant today as it was in 1987. I mean,
Oh
these are
yeah.
guys who are just trying to make money, no matter who gets hurt
Yeah.
along the way. It's all about just adding green to their bank accounts, and it doesn't matter who they fuck over, the workers, the consumer. It doesn't matter. And
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about, capitalism, socialism. It's not political at all. It's just,
no,
yeah, there's things to be said about capitalism, but you can't just fuck over anybody you want anytime just for absolutely selfish reasons,
yeah,
yeah, Jordan Belfort and uh Michael Douglas's character, Gordon Gekko, is just they were evil, evil people.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So,
well, I mean, it's interesting that Jordan Belfort was based on a real character.
oh
And
well, he actually he was a real
yeah, you're right.
character.
You're right. Whereas Gordon Gekko is a created character, but I think he deserves it to be on this list because the way he was written by Stone and the way that Michael Douglas plays him, he's so believable as this kind of guy.
Absolutely.
Like he's so slick. You can understand how he gets people under his thumb and like surrounding him in his orbit, and yet that doesn't at all diminish just how, yeah, selfish and horrible he is.
Yeah, and like Oliver Stone, while I've said over and over again on this podcast that I'm not a huge Oliver Stone fan, but
Yeah, me
he
neither.
is so good at making these kind of rise and fall stories, not as well as Martin Scorsese does, but he does he wrote Scarface,
Mhm.
and he Platoon did this movie, and he's just a very good storyteller. And
Yes.
yeah, Gordon Gekko, just great, great character.
Yeah. All right, so let's go jump now number 8 to somebody much less realistic. And that is Bring Me Thanos. So that is Thanos, who first appeared actually in a mid-credit scene in 2011 film Avengers. and then was briefly in the Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014, I believe. But then he really became the main guy, obviously, in Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. He actually, the funny thing is, he actually had more screen time, his character, than anyone else in Infinity War. So, in a sense, he was such an overwhelming villain that he kind of was the main character in that first part of those uh oh, it was almost a two-part film, right?
Yeah.
Infinity War and then Endgame. And he really was kind of the main character actually for the first one. And I think more than almost any other villain that we talk about, he's one where you have so many people saying, Thanos kind of had a point. And I think that that's also a sign of a well-crafted villain is that they're, even if they're doing horrible things, in this case, mass genocide on a scale that's not even imaginable because it was the entire universe. Um, I think it's uh, it's somebody that we can understand and sort of see they're complex enough as characters with backstories that we can see them as characters and kind of understand where they're coming from, even if obviously we totally disagree.
Sure. And yeah, that's something that we kind of left out in our first two villains because were just kind of evil for the sake of being evil,
Hmm.
as far as the T-1000 and Gordon Gekko.
Well,
And
Gekko, I guess, had an ethos. It's just one which and most right think people should completely disagree with. Yeah,
yeah.
you're right. T-1000 was more, yeah, machine, evil, kill, kill, kill.
Yeah. And but Thanos, when he explains his ideology, as fucked up as it is, he as far as saying that half of all life should be wiped out just for the sake of sustaining resources. uh, my- I'm not agreeing with him, but I'm saying he does have a point,
Yeah.
like,
There are finite resources, and we are voracious consumers of said resources as
and
human beings.
even in Endgame Captain America, he said that whales are coming back to the Hudson Bay and stuff like that. So
Yes. Yeah.
if Captain America, somebody as pure of heart, is saying stuff like that, then I'm not agreeing with it. I'm not agreeing that
You're not advocating mass genocide of half the
no.
human race?
No, and even they even brought that point up. It's not genocide.
Right. Well, yeah, you're right. Yeah. No, you're right. Because
It's
it's not any particular
yeah, it's fair.
group. Yeah.
It's
It's just mass murder.
complete. Yes, yeah, of course it is. Yeah, but yeah, I just want to illustrate the point that not that he has a valid point, and I definitely don't agree with him,
Yeah.
but it is something that philosophically is interesting to think about, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so next up is a really different one, and it's Dolores Umbridge from the Harry Potter series. And this is one of my picks, and
Yeah.
I definitely chose her over Voldemort, or
Hmm.
he who must not be named, because Voldemort is just so like face card, like he's
Yeah.
so basic,
Yeah.
and but
It's just power for power's sake.
yeah,
And yeah.
yeah, and but Umbridge, and I have actually Stephen King on my side here. He said he was Stephen King said that Dolores Umbridge is one of the best movie villains he's ever seen.
Huh.
And so she is just such a such a bitch.
That's
And
that's where you come to unsolicited film reviews for that kind of that kind of insightful commentary.
but honestly, she's so torturous to all of her students. And if you are a fan of Harry Potter, if you've seen these movies, she is just such just a villainous character
Mm.
in the way that she makes people write in their own hands in blood and stuff like that. And even in the later movies where she's just uh carried away by centaurs.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. No, yeah, that's in the same one. That's in Order of the Phoenix. Yeah.
yeah,
Which
you're right.
is kind of low key my favorite Harry Potter movie, actually. But that's a whole discussion for another time. Uh,
But yeah, she's just so fucking evil.
yeah.
and and even in the way that she just she kind of chuckles like
That
it,
little laugh
yeah.
is incredible. It's
and
it's
and
so for me, I think it's like the veneer of being nice and polite, the politeness and proper, and she's always wearing the pink and everything, and she's
yeah,
got like the cats and
yes,
everything, and like the
yes,
tea that she's sipping. She like portrays herself as this kindly aunt sort of thing. But that's part of what makes her so terrifying is that because what she projects is so different from the reality of who she is.
yeah.
As
Voldemort's basically Hitler.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah. And Voldemort, yeah, doesn't pretend to be anything other than like this kind of big evil guy.
yeah, but
Yeah.
Umbridge, yeah, she has, like you said, the veneer of being this nice, like, yeah, always wearing pink, the crazy cat lady. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think the other thing too is like she's such a perfect villain in terms of how she represents certain authority figures.
Mm.
Uh and like the very first scene, I went back and watched some of her scenes again in Order of the Phoenix. The very first scene that you see her in, it's in this hearing. And she's mixed in with a whole bunch of other people, and Dumbledore is speaking, and he says something, and she does that little like or whatever.
Yeah.
I can't do it. That laugh. And then just like, oh, excuse me, it's strange, but I thought it sounded like you were questioning the Minister of Magic or whatever. And it's this whole like, how dare you suggest that anything that the authority figures are doing is ever possibly wrong. It's and like to even question it is disloyal and attack on the greater good and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's
And
another
that
thing.
kind of
Yeah.
thing is just so insidious and so it's just so inherent in as you said, as these villainous authority figures. She's just such a perfect example of that kind of authority figure.
Yeah, the way she's just like, the Ministry of Magic, aka the government, is, the end all be all,
Yeah.
and there's no questioning it. And oh yeah, God, my favorite quote of hers was, "You have nothing to fear if you have nothing to hide,"
Right.
which
Yeah.
is like, you know,
Yeah.
the
That's
ult.
another thing that's been used to, yeah, support all sorts of invasive yeah, government surveillance programs and things in the past. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good quote. All right. And then the next one is Howl 9000. So this was a character. It is a character.
Oh, of course it is.
Created by Arthur C. Clarke for his novel 2001: A Space Odyssey. But it was actually, I think, way back in our Century series when we talked about movies in the 60s, mentioned this.
Hmm.
that the book and the movie were actually developed concurrently. So Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick, who was making the film, they were actually kind of working together on this. So it's not like there was a novel out and then Kubrick decided to adapt it. So this is both novel and film kind of at the same time. And they both came out in 1968. So for anybody who hasn't seen it, I mean, it's a lot of people I'm sure know what HAL 9000 is or have seen it, but it's an older movie, so I won't presume that everybody's seen it. So
And if
HAL,
you want to do a deep dive into it, we did discuss it in our 1960s podcast. So
yes, which you can go
continue.
back and find on Spotify. So HAL 9000 is the AI computer, basically. It's the AI system that runs the spaceship that's taking them to the outer reaches of outer space. And it's amazing how prescient it was for, 1968 for all the stuff that we're talking about today in terms of AI. And it's just such a great villain because it is coming to conclusions, this machine, about the human race that are different in terms of our own inherent worth than humans would come to those decisions because it is using a very cold machine like calculus about what the greater good actually is.
Oh my
And
God, yeah.
that I think is what makes it such an amazing villain because it's just this incredible sort of encapsulation of that kind of thinking.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And just it's hard to even yeah, you are so right about how it's just so cold and calculating uh and oh man. Yeah. The whole kind of quote of I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, yeah, Hal is so evil and but at the same time so like you can understand where it's coming from.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in a way, it's not even evil.
No.
I mean, it's just very utilitarian, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
It's just, you know, when you take out emotions and the way that we sometimes value human life more than anything else, a cold calculus of a machine won't do that for us.
No, no, it has no emotion and
Yeah.
and
Yeah, emotion doesn't factor in.
and for good reason because
Yeah.
why would it? It's just it's a machine and it has to be what's the word uh not calculate God
Well, I mean,
has
yeah, its programming is to ensure the success of the mission and run the ship. And so that's it.
yes.
That's all it's concerned about, really. Those two things.
Yeah, and I forgot who the protagonist's name is, but uh, yeah, its objective is to finish the mission, and anything other than that is going to throw him off.
Yeah. All right. We are now at, so that was six. We're now at halftime. So we're going to do another drink break. And so for this one, we're gonna do a drink that's called. Tried to find some devilish, so some villainous sounding drinks for this week, and surprisingly, there aren't as many as you might think. Like you'd think it'd be easy to come up with villainous sounding names for drinks, but I couldn't find that many, and I don't think you could either, really. So, but what a good one that I found, and it sounds very delicious. So we're gonna try it out. It's called Devil's Punch. So the devil is obviously the ultimate villain. Um,
Yeah, basically, yeah.
so let's get started here. So what we will need is, and yeah, I don't know if I can try to do what you sometimes do when you do this and twist down to the, well, that might not work too well. So I'll just hold things up instead.
I like your Canadian armband there.
Yeah, yeah. My,
Oh, elbows
my,
out.
my,
Okay,
my,
all
my,
right.
my little protest shirt. All right. So, yeah, so you will need uh, 2 ounces of tequila. This one actually seems to have to be, this is going to be quite strong, so we'll have to sip this
Yeah,
for the rest of the podcast.
I already got my stuff mixed up. So
Oh, okay, yeah, so that's smart. So I was gonna do it here for the people listening and watching. So 2 ounces of tequila, then 1 ounce of orange liqueur, which can be, sort of anything. I'm just going to use Cointreau. So here we go. Got the, or triple sec, same thing basically. Cointreau is just a more expensive brand of triple sec. So I'm going with the cheaper version. Um, and then another ounce of limoncello, which is, so we're really getting into this really is a punch type thing. So another ounce. Here's the limoncello. And then an ounce of sour mix. And there is a little place near me that sells lots of cocktail things, including sour mix. Should probably shake this up a little bit.
oh, is that in the oh God, the district by you?
It's actually in there's a little tiny store that's I think it's called Cocktail Emporium or something. They sell all sorts of different things, a whole bunch of different flavors of bitters and all this kind of stuff. And it's
Oh, okay.
actually in Union Station, in the big downtown Toronto station,
Oh,
train
okay.
station. And then also need a just a dash of orange juice. It says there's a dash of orange juice. I'm gonna put a few ice cubes in here. You already tested yours. And
Okay. That's not
there we
bad.
go. Yeah. And I'm going to put ice cubes in my glass. And then I am good to go. So that is the devil's punch. So
I
while
will
I,
say I think it's a little too sweet. I might take like half of the triple sec out.
okay. Okay. Yeah. A full ounce of triple sec is maybe a bit too much.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
I mean,
People can always
I'll
try these and then, yeah, never follow a recipe completely. You got to test it out yourself.
I mean, I'll still drink it. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah, it's not bad though.
no, it's
Yeah,
not bad.
yeah, I see what you mean. It's a little sweet, but yeah, not overwhelming. Um, all right, so that is Devil's Punch, which takes us now to the second half of the show. So we'll start off now with number 5. Zach, take it away.
All right, next we have Emperor Commodus, and that is played by Joaquin Phoenix in the 2000 historical epic by Ridley Scott called Gladiator. And this is one where I was just like, God damn, this guy, Joaquin Phoenix just completely stole the show here.
Hmm.
I know Russell Crowe won the Oscar for Best Actor in this one, but in my opinion, it was all about Joaquin Phoenix, and it, it, let's see, what was I, 15 or something like this, and Russell Crowe won Best Director, and Gladiator won Best Picture this year, but yeah, Joaquin Phoenix was just amazing in this movie.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the Maximus character that Russell Crowe won for is, I mean, it's a good character and it's fun, but it's really what makes it is that he has something to play off on and something
Exactly.
to sort of
Yeah.
fight against and rail against, and that wouldn't have worked nearly as well without this villain. For me, what makes Commodus such a compelling villain, it's his insecurity.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure.
Right? Like this is a guy who's the most powerful person in the world, basically, at that time, or sort of known Western world. Although, yeah, no, probably the world. I think the
Yeah.
Roman Empire would have been more powerful and more united than the Chinese empire at that time. And yet he can't get the two things that he really wants, right? One, which is the respect of his father. Um, and the other, well, it's probably the incestuous love of his sister. So we'll maybe set that aside. Well, let's just say he can't get
No,
respect.
why set it aside? It makes
Okay,
him a better
maybe
villain.
not set aside that.
Yeah.
But yeah, but he also, yeah, he just can't. People don't respect him. He's the Rodney Dangerfield of. I'm dating myself for that
Hey,
reference.
you don't get no respect.
The Rodney Dangerfield of Roman emperors. But no, yeah, that's to me, that's what makes it such an interesting character is that he's so powerful and yet so insecure.
Yeah, and top to bottom, even though it's such a great cast, he sticks out, and this is really his coming out party as well. I don't think I ever really saw a Joaquin Phoenix movie before this, and uh, he was just so so enigmatic,
Mm.
so charismatic, and I've always been a fan of his from that time on.
Yeah, enigmatic is a great word because you never quite know what he's going to do from one moment to the next. There's that really great tense scene where he's sitting there with his nephew and he's like telling him the story
Oh God.
about what is
Yeah.
it, the bear or something. Um and it's just so, yeah, so nerve-wracking because you're not quite sure where he's going with that and what he's going to do next.
And
So
another
yeah.
one where he's with his sister, and like probably Joaquin Phoenix most iconic line ever is, "Am I not merciful?"
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So just so chilling, and like it still gives me goosebumps to this day. And yeah, yeah, just such a fantastic performance.
Yeah, it really is. All right. So then we move on to maybe the most iconic villain of all time, and that is Darth Vader. So obviously first appeared in Star Wars in 1977 by creation of George Lucas. The character has now appeared in what, like seven films and I don't know, a whole bunch of series or something like that. But obviously its most iconic form is the original three films, the Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. And not only is it initially kind of the epitome of evil, right? Like it's dark, it's menacing, it's got this incredible voice, voiced by James Earl Jones. It's huge. It's so, again, it kind of incorporates a lot of these other things. He seems so indestructible every scene you see him in. But then as the saga goes on, you get more about him and you realize that it's this person who's tortured, and by the Return of the Jedi, is kind of exposed himself as a more complex character who sold himself to the dark side for power and for other things, but also laments the things that he left behind in becoming a villain. And anyway, so he's got to be on the list, I think, of greatest villains of all time, just because he's so iconic. But I think it's also an interesting character because as the sagas go on, he became a more nuanced character.
Yeah, interestingly, I left him off my list just because
Mm.
he kind of redeems himself
Right. Yeah, I
at,
suppose. Yeah.
at the end, and he becomes kind of more of I don't know, maybe more of an anti-hero than a villain, and especially after you go through the prequel saga and all that
Mm,
stuff. Like it makes him a lot more relatable. But you're absolutely right. I mean, as far as the first three movies, and if you're just looking at the first one in particular, it yeah, he's one of the greatest villains of all time, and definitely one of the most iconic. I mean, he's fucking Darth Vader. Like,
yeah,
let's be
yeah.
honest. I don't know what I was thinking when I left him off this list.
Well, no,
I
fair enough. You were looking at the whole arc of him, and yeah, but I think another thing about like we talked about him a little bit, obviously, on our podcast about movie twists and the
mhm.
greatest twists, and the iconic scene where he declares to Luke that he's his father in Empire Strikes Back. And that's actually kind of another thing that makes him so interesting is that he's in the, and you see this in villains in tons of different movies, the, telling the hero, no, you're just like me.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, and that's kind of what he's doing in that moment almost, right? And well, that's what a lot of what Empire Strikes Back is about is Luke trying to avoid becoming, the scene in the cave and all this kind of stuff, knowing that he does kind of have that innate darkness inside him, and him trying to forge his own path and get away from it. But that's that scene and all that stuff is Darth Vader doing that thing that villains do, which is go, no, 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 you're the same as me. You're no better than me, kind of thing.
Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's fucking Darth Vader. So I'm glad you put him as high as you did on the
Yeah,
list
I
because
obviously had him very high for him to end up fourth on our list when you didn't have him. So
yeah, he had to be on here.
yeah. All right.
So uh
Next up.
next up we have not just the Joker, but specifically Heath Ledger's Joker,
Right.
and came on 2008, Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, and man, what a phenomenal performance. I loved Jack Nicholson as the Joker,
Hmm.
but this one was just transcendent, and uh,
Won him a posthumous Oscar for this role.
yeah, exactly, and just blew me away. And a lot of people have the same opinion, obviously, because it won the Oscar. But man, it was so tragic that he lost his life before he was able to win this Oscar.
Hmm.
And man, yeah, it was just such a fantastic I already said performance, but yeah, he was so fucking good, man. He was so good.
I think for me the like we're talking about different kinds of villains
Mm,
here, like all these different ones, and what this character is, the Joker in general, but specifically Heath Ledger's Joker. I mean, he says it right in one of his quotes in the movie. He says, "I'm an agent of chaos."
yes.
And that really epitomizes what Heath Ledger's Joker is all about. He's just this, yeah, this chaos agent who's just out there to break shit. And and there's also that other famous quote by Michael Caine's character in this film where he goes, some people just want to watch the world burn.
You just want to
And
watch the whale burn.
nice. See, I can't do accents, but yeah, that was pretty good. Short side note. Okay, I don't want to go off in too much of a tangent, but I once heard Michael Caine um, explain how to say his voice Sorry, explain how to say his name in his accent.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And what you have to do is say, my cocaine.
My cocaine. Yeah.
My cocaine. My cocaine. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, some people just want to watch the world burn. But that, yeah, so he is kind of that character is sort of the epitome of this agent of chaos style of villain that you do see in a bunch of movies. And I'm not sure there's one that's done it better than this.
Yeah, I totally agree. And going back to Thanos, we had kind of a not a disagreement, but we were trying to decide between Thanos and Loki as far as which Marvel villain we were gonna put on this
Yeah,
list.
we didn't want to put them both on. Yeah.
And we decided that Thanos actually had a good philosophical point, whereas Loki was just, as you say, an agent of chaos. So.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Loki would have fit into that sort of archetype as well. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, back to Heath Ledger was absolutely fucking incredible. Totally deserved the Oscar.
Mhm.
The totally deserved the Oscar. Uh, Joaquin Phoenix also deserved his Oscar, but yeah,
Yeah, totally different portrayals of the same character, really. Well, and Jack Nicholson's too, as you said.
yeah,
Great portrayal as well, but yeah, also totally different.
and it's so crazy how versatile one character can be
Hmm.
and across so many portrayals. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's wild. And that
Yeah, like I guess if I had to give them sort of adjectives to describe them, Jack Nicholson's was kind of his character was mischievous, right? Like it was
sure.
there was a fun to it.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was mischief and fun.
yeah.
And Heath Ledger's was yeah, was chaos. And then Joaquin Phoenix's was it was kind of more pathetic.
Ooh, yeah, yeah,
um,
you're right.
but it was just this sad, pathetic person.
Yeah,
But you're right. It's all the same character, but it's kind of there. It is obviously we're talking specifically in this case about Heath Ledger's Joker, but you're right. As a character, it is such an amazing villain because you can shine these different lights on it and come up with different things just that are fundamental to who the character is.
yeah. As far as assigning adjectives to him, yeah, you hit the nail on the head on all 3 points. Yeah.
All right, so we're into now our top two. Number two, we've got Hannibal Lecter.
Hey,
Got to have him in here. So Hannibal Lecter was first introduced in the Thomas Harris novel Red Dragon, the character, and has been portrayed in 5 movies and 2 TV series. But we're going to focus, obviously, more specifically on his second film appearance in 1991 in the film Silence of the Lambs, where he was memorably played by Sir Anthony Hopkins, who is the second one on our list that actually won the Oscar for his portrayal. And so he won Best Actor Oscar for this, despite the fact that he was actually only on screen for about 16 minutes of the film. It's crazy. I mean, that just shows how much of an impact it had. And also maybe that it was in the wrong category, but it should have probably been best supporting. But that speaks to just what kind of an impact this character had. So he's another one where I sort of said with Gordon Gekko, there was a buildup before we even meet him, and there's definitely a buildup before
oh
we
yeah,
even meet. Like they're going through all the rules about don't get too close to the bars, don't let them get in your head, like all this. There's about 4 different people talking about how
yeah.
to deal with Hannibal Lecter because he's such a menace
The
before
dude
we
throwing
even
cum in Jodie Foster's face.
yeah, well yeah, well yeah, that Migs there. In the next cell. That's actually when she leaves though. And then
Oh,
but But actually, there's a good point about that I have as well. And then you finally meet him, and I think that what's so unsettling about all that, they build him up as this incredible monster, basically, and then you finally meet him, and he's just so calm, and he just, with one of those smiles that never reaches the eyes, one of those kind of
Yeah,
smiles,
yeah, yeah.
and he's so sort of courteous, right, as well. And all that after everything that we've heard about him, that he's this unspeakable monster, it's so unsettling. Um, anyway, that's
The
yeah,
calmness, the
and then the
calmness is
courtesy
unsettling.
also plays in with the Miggs thing that you said. Like he attacks this guy Miggs because he thinks basically that it's rude that Miggs did that to her. And he basically, well, he doesn't attack him. He talks him, and he's so smart that he makes him commit suicide and eat his own tongue
Oof.
because he convinces Miggs of something. But that's how much, he plays the mind games and gets in your head. But that's all because he thought it was discourteous what he did to Clarice Starling. Again, just an unbelievable character.
Yeah, man. Like again, I kept him off this list because off of my personal list because I didn't think he was that bad.
Well,
I mean, yeah, yeah,
his
and let
nickname is the Cannibal.
yeah, and let me explain for a minute. Like, yes, he eats people, yeah, but you know, he has a good reason for
It,
doing
it,
so.
it, it pairs people with a nice Chianti, though. So.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, again, same as Darth Vader, like he has kind of a not really a redemption arc, especially not in the form that Darth Vader has, but he is okay, he's not a good guy, but when he eats people, they kind of deserve it.
Now that is a defense of Hannibal Lecter. I didn't expect to hear tonight that, that the people he eats deserve it. Well, no, I mean I do know where you're going with this because we talked about this a little bit offline before a couple of days ago as we were coming up with these lists and all that kind of stuff. Um, and your point then when you wrote me was that I mean you didn't consider him because although he's clearly a villain, he wasn't an antagonist for the main character. Like
Right,
he
yeah.
wasn't getting in Clarice Starling's way.
He was
And
helping her
yeah,
actually.
he
Yeah.
was helping her. And in a way, it is funny because there's different kind of roles that characters can play in movies, not to get too sort of inside baseball on screen writing and screencraft and all that kind of stuff. But one of the very popular roles that a character can play is kind of as a mentor character.
Hmm.
And in a way, the Obi-Wan Kenobi, that kind of thing. In a way, he is the mentor character in this film
Yeah.
for Clarice Starling. So I know what I can see where you're coming from when you said that's why you didn't have him on your list because you're right. He's not hindering the main character. He's actually helping her. But I think he's just still undoubtedly a villainous character. So I had to have him on my list. And in fact, he was number one on my list.
No, I don't fault you whatsoever for having him at your number one. So,
And the other thing, just before we move on, that I would say that's key to who he is, and I mentioned it obviously with how he managed to convince Miggs to kill himself. And this is what he has in common with the first person on the list, and that's that he's very intelligent.
mm,
And so that's almost again even more unsettling for a villain is that it always seems like he is ahead of everybody else and kind of knows things that other characters don't. And is just smarter than everybody else.
That's a common theme for just about everybody on our list.
Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah, for sure. Maybe not Commodus. Um,
Okay, yeah, fair
Maybe
enough.
not Darth Vader. Like I don't think intelligence is really a big thing for him. But yeah, you're right. I guess a lot of them on the list. Yeah.
Okay, so number one, and this was kind of shocking to me that we both had this.
As the only common character. Yeah.
Yeah, not only that, yeah, but it's number one on our list is Hans Landa from Inglorious Bastards, played by, of course, Christoph Waltz in Quentin Tarantino's film. And but I kind of I stand by it. Do you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had him a little lower on my list. I think you had him actually number one on your list.
Yeah,
I had him a little lower, but he was still definitely on my list because it is such a great character. And really, the amazing thing about it, he's really only in about 5 scenes. They're just very long scenes.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Good point. Yeah.
but just everything you need to know about him is in those scenes, and it's the initial scene, obviously, I think has got to be one of the great scenes in movie history,
Oh
just in
yeah.
terms of how Tarantino crafted that scene, building the tension, starting with this massive wide shot, and then of the farmstead, and then you see below the floorboards and see this panicked family underneath there,
Oh man.
and the conversations that are happening. And then again, it's the intelligence. It's right. It's the way he crafts this conversation. At one point early on, he's just talking about milk and the farm and everything. Then he's like, "Oh, do you mind if we switch to English?" Because obviously he's German and he doesn't. And you're like, okay, whatever. And then it's near the end of that scene, you realize that he's done all this because he didn't want the family below, who he knows doesn't speak English, to understand what he's talking about. Like just everything about it, again, he's just steps ahead of everybody else. It's
Yeah, man.
it's it's incredible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Obviously, Christoph Waltz won an Oscar for this one, and
Did he? Oh wow. I forgot that he won an Oscar for that.
yeah, yeah, he won two Oscars on two for two on Tarantino movies. But yeah, man, God, he's just so so good, and yeah, every scene he's in, and as you said, he's not in a whole lot of this movie, but every scene he's in, he steals the show,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, you were right. For some reason, I thought he was just nominated for this one and then won for the next one. But you're right. He won Best Supporting for this as well. Which,
right,
so yeah, so three of the villains on our list uh won Oscars for their actors. So that's pretty good.
yeah. He was man, I keep losing my thoughts on talking about these guys just because they're so goddamn good. But yeah, Christoph Waltz.
He's also so the other thing about him too is that like I mean, different from Dolores Umbridge. I mean, not the same kind of character, but he's very pleasant, right?
And
Like
charming. That's the word I was looking
that's
for.
yeah,
It's
that's a better word.
very
Yeah.
charming.
Yeah, he's very charming. You're right. Yeah, more than pleasant. But he's always like, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna enjoy my strudel here. It's not the
Yeah,
same as
exactly.
in,
Yeah,
and he's just kind of, and again, but similar to Dolores Umbridge, it's that veneer, right? It's that
yeah,
like this is what he's putting on when really what he's doing is trying to find a way to be a murderous asshole. Well, hey,
yeah. I
a
mean,
Nazi.
he's a fucking yeah. Exactly. He's a fucking
he's,
Nazi.
yeah, so it also makes sense that the number one villain on our list from the number one group of villains in all human history, basically, who are the Nazis. So yeah, it's very appropriate. Actually, Hans Landa, in retrospect, is a perfect choice for number one. Even though, again, and not to get into, too political or anything, um, but he professes, well, the Nazis, I'm not really, especially at the end when he wants to escape to America and get away, he's claiming that he doesn't really believe all the Nazi stuff. That's just not him. That's what a lot of people in Germany said who went along and were very integral parts of the Nazi regime. So in a way, that's even more evil, right? Because okay, you didn't believe it and you still did all this shit. Like that's almost worse, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think that makes him better. I think that in some ways that makes him more evil. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, for sure.
great character. All right. So those are our 10 greatest movie villains in movie history. I said movie twice. Um, but yeah, it's just a fun list. It's a fun exercise. Really, a movie is only as good as its villain.
Yeah,
Um,
I've always said that. Yeah, I totally agree. Yep.
and so these, obviously, all of these villains lifted the movies they were in up to another level.
Yep. So, next time we're gonna do a Easter episode or
Yeah.
Easter slash Passover slash Jesus episode.
Yeah, let's call it like in honor of Easter, we're gonna do a Jesus Christianity episode. Um, not all faith-based truths, some very critical of Christianity. So hopefully people won't get too offended. In some of the movies we cover, but some of them that we're covering are
Yeah,
very kind of faithful renditions of the biblical story
yeah.
of
We're gonna
Jesus.
do
So we're gonna do both.
we're gonna do some secular, some non-secular, and
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
But we'll see you next week on the Unsolicited Film Reviews podcast. Please, elbows up for Canada.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, we'll see you next week. Please like, subscribe, and most importantly, comment because we are not getting enough comments, and we need you. We need you to comment.
Yes. Please do.
Later,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.